Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on using social media in promotion and tenure. Thank you very much for joining us today. We're looking forward to a really interesting session with some brilliant guest speakers that we've got lined up. So, hello, I'm Catherine Williams. I head up the marketing at altmetric.com. I'm joined today by Daniel Cabrera, who's an emergency physician and clinician educator at the Mayo Clinic. And Dr. Gardner, who is Associate Professor of Pathology and Dermatology at the University of Arkansas for Medical Sciences. They're two really engaged people on social media, and I know they've got some great tips and insights to share with you today. Okay, I'm now going to hand over to Jared. Jared, are you able to share your screen?
Yes. Can you see it? Does that work?
Yeah.
I'm Jared Gardner, and I do dermatopathology and bone and soft tissue sarcoma pathology at University of Arkansas for Medical Sciences. And I'm going to touch on kind of some more details similar to what Dr. Cabrera covered in his talk. But I'm going to save you some time first. I'm actually going to make my entire promotion and tenure packet available for download on my website. It'll be in a document format that'll be editable. It's not quite ready yet, but if you just keep this little link, it'll be there throughout the talk. That link is my social media guide for pathologists and other doctors, and I will post all of it there because it took me a long time to put together my P&T packet, and I hate to see so many doctors spend so much time on paperwork. And so if I can make that easier so you can care for more patients, then that's awesome. And also I have a video about how to build a medical CV, particularly with how to put social media activity and kind of create that portfolio of the work that you're doing online. And I also have a download link that you can download an editable copy of my CV that you can use if you'd like to craft your own. All right, so let's talk about promotion and tenure. I'm a clinical educator track, tenure track, and there are different tracks, and every institution's a little different. But basically, when we look at promotion and tenure in academic medicine, there are four main pillars that you're judged on, and these are teaching and mentoring, research, patient care, and leadership and administrative activities. And every different tracks are different on what they value, and different organizations look at these things differently. But those are the four main core ideas. And for me as a doctor, patient care is the most important thing that I do, obviously. And I think most doctors don't have a problem with that part. They can say, well, I take care of patients and I see a lot of patients, but it's figuring out the other three and how to get enough teaching, enough research, enough leadership on their CV so that they can go up successfully and get promoted. So that's what we're going to really focus on today. And these boil down in the traditional sense. Traditionally, teaching and mentoring is lectures or invited talks, and plus evaluations from your learners. Research, of course, is peer-reviewed publications. And leadership would be committee and board memberships, boards of organizations, editorial boards, etc. And when you put all of those four things together, the goal is that eventually you'll have a national and even international professional reputation that develops. This is the kind of very basic summary or skeleton version of the traditional way of doing promotion and tenure. And this is what P&T committees still look at. So how can social media help us accomplish that structure we just talked about? Well, I think there's a few ways. Number one, I think you can leverage your social networks to more efficiently accomplish the traditional P&T activities. You publish a peer-reviewed paper, well then share it on social media so it has a wider reach. Maybe that'll lead to collaborations down the road with people that you didn't even know had the same interest as you. Things like that. But there's another side to that as well. We can use social media to develop new and innovative approaches to teaching, even to doing research in the online sphere. But the difference is that these are very unusual, and for traditional-minded academic people, these things don't necessarily seem to be real or legitimate sometimes. And so that's why it's really important that we obtain and record metrics and analytic data that help us to translate these novel approaches into the traditional language that more traditionally minded members of a P&T committee might be more willing to accept as legitimate. And we're going to talk about how to do that. And then number three is, of course, using social media eventually will build your national and international reputation. I'm only 5 years into practice, and pathologists and other doctors all over the world know who I am, not because of all the amazing papers I've written. I think I've written some nice papers, but they know me because I tweet and I post on Facebook and Instagram. So let's talk about how to use social media for teaching. So I use a variety of platforms and I share similar content across those platforms. This is my Facebook page. And so if you have, most of you probably have a Facebook account, but this is a page which is you can build this from your personal Facebook account, but this is a public thing that anyone on the internet can see, and they can see anything you post there, but they don't have to see pictures of your pets or your kids or what you ate for dinner last night. So it's a nice wall to build between your professional life on Facebook and your personal life. And it's also great because your family and friends may not want to see pictures of tumors and things like that, or whatever kind of stuff you post. So it's a nice way to share content on Facebook. So I'll share a picture of something like a nevoid melanoma, which is a really challenging melanoma that to diagnose, and to give some tips about how to make that diagnosis so that other pathologists can learn. And what's nice is you can see the metrics down here. Look, 199 people liked this, 26 people shared it. So you can get that kind of information, but you can go further, and that's what's nice about a Facebook page. A regular Facebook account gives you this information, but once you have a page, you can see all sorts of details. Here's a picture of Giardia that I shared, and look, you can see how many people liked it, loved it, how many people said, wow. You can see if anyone hid the post or unliked your page because of the post. You can see that 20,983 people saw this post. It gives you a lot of metric data, and you can see this on every post you make on your page. So it's really valuable information to have when you're trying to see how well your activity correlates with impact. And Twitter is a similar story. I share similar content on Twitter, like this picture of bone remodeling, and you can see it got a lot of retweets and likes down here, which is nice. And if you have a Twitter account, you can go to analytics.twitter.com and sign up. It's a one-time free sign up, and it will start tracking a lot more metric data, and it will tell you, you know, in the past 28 days, 663,000 impressions. That's how many times my tweets were seen in the past month. And you can see how each individual tweet performed and how many people retweet you or click your links. It's really amazing data that's automatically calculated and freely available to you, which is really very useful. And YouTube's a similar thing. I make teaching videos about pathology, and I even made my actually most popular video is this normal skin histology video I made for my own medical students. I'm a course co-director at my university, and I made this for my medical students, and they liked it enough that they said it should be part of the curriculum. So now the students actually are assigned to watch this video on YouTube, and then they'll have 3 exam questions on their exam that count towards their grade. And what's nice is that I'm able to take content like that and use it to teach my own students, but then anyone around the world can also watch this video and learn from it, even people in developing nations or places where they may not have access to as many useful educational resources. So I think that, to me, every time I look at anything I'm doing with teaching, anything I'm doing traditionally, I think, how can I apply social media to this and expand it and distribute it more broadly and help more people with it? And in the process, all those things build you up for promotion and tenure too. So everyone wins. And I really love the analytic data on YouTube. You can see the average amount of time people watch a video, 7 minutes for my videos, which is nice. You know, it's almost 700,000 minutes of watch time in the past 5 years, and most of it within just the past year. You can see how the videos are ranked, how many people liked, or, you know, you always have to have a few people that don't like you. That legitimizes your activity online, I suppose. But anyway, I think these kinds of details are really useful for me to know what kind of material I'm making. Is it useful to my online learners or not? And also, it's nice because when I try to convince my promotion and tenure committee that these videos actually matter, I have this data to show them. Let's talk about research. So here's an example. This is a review article I wrote with my friend Nicole Riddle. It's not technically hard research, but it's a review article. It was published in Surgical Pathology Clinics a couple years ago, and when it was in its early online stage, before it was actually published in print, it went on PubMed. And so we took one of the tables of all the different new molecular abnormalities and sarcomas, and we shared that with a link to PubMed on Twitter. And this was a couple years ago. I maybe had half the followers I have now. And look, I think this was in a week's time, we had 7,000 people had seen, or 7,000 times this tweet had been seen. Now, only 84 of them actually clicked the link and followed it through. And I don't know how many of those people actually read the paper, but the point is that probably thousands of people potentially saw that we wrote this paper about soft tissue tumors. So that we had already done the hard work of publishing the paper. Why not expand the reach and the impact of that by sharing it on Twitter? And of course, Altmetric will track these kinds of shares as well. And, you know, I created a couple of Facebook discussion groups to teach pathology, my subspecialties of derm path and sarcoma pathology, but also other friends from around the world created groups to focus on different subspecialties of pathology. So we felt like our groups were educational and helpful, but what we did is we took that novel form of online education and then we wrote a paper about it that we published in a peer-reviewed journal. So see, we're translating the social media language, the social media activity into academic currency, something we can use towards promotion and tenure, and also something that will reach people who read print journals, but maybe don't go on Facebook and don't even know that these groups exist. So it's a nice way for us to have a broader reach to a different audience than actually actively uses social media already. And also it's a great way to help show that what we're doing is actually of value enough to be put into a peer-reviewed journal. And what's interesting, I have only met a couple of my co-authors in real life. The rest of them I've only met on Facebook. And to me, that's one of the most fun parts of doing academic work on Facebook is all the wonderful people you meet in the virtual sphere. In 2015, I helped organize a live tweet group for the USCAP meeting, which is one of the most prominent pathology meetings in the world. And we tweeted about the meeting and it was very successful. And it was so successful that the leadership of USCAP asked me to create a social media subcommittee to run the Twitter and Facebook accounts for the organization and for me to be the chair of that. So again, this is a novel thing that we're doing, live tweeting. Maybe other people don't think that's legitimate, but then when I got to be a chair of a committee, or a subcommittee rather, that actually counts towards traditional P&T activities, right? That's a traditional thing. Being on a committee is part of the leadership aspect of promotion. And then we went a step further and we wrote a paper about it, and that got published in a prominent pathology journal, Modern Pathology. So these things help, again, create academic currency from the work that we're doing on social media. We created a pathology Twitter journal club to discuss articles from the literature on Twitter. A lot of other specialties of medicine have done this too. And we got this listed on PubMed.gov because PubMed Commons actually tracks Twitter journal clubs that are medical. And so again, this legitimizes and shows that this is a legitimate activity. And then we submitted an abstract to the USCAP meeting and presented this as a poster. And we actually found that it was interesting to see how Altmetric responded well to us having an article in the Pathology Journal Club. So all of these things, again, legitimize and create the things that you can put on your CV and that even traditional promotion and tenure-minded people will accept as legitimate. Also, I've done research via social media or focusing on social media. So I volunteer in a variety of sarcoma and rare tumor patient support groups on Facebook. I started doing that to help out and to be an advocate for the patients and also to learn from them and let them educate me. And we decided, my medical student Jasmine Howler decided to work with me and make a survey to ask these patients how they like having doctors, particularly pathologists, in their group. And what's amazing is that in 3 weeks' time, 542 patients and family members, all of these are people with rare tumors that most doctors have never even heard of, very rare things. And we got 542 responses in 3 weeks with a SurveyMonkey survey. And that paper actually just got accepted in Archives of Pathology, so hopefully will be online ahead of print very soon. So these are all the ways that I use social media towards research type activities. Now for leadership, I've obtained a lot of different leadership positions that again are legitimate positions, but the reason I got the position is because of social media. I am the chair of social media for the USCAP and also the American Society of Dermatopathology. And recently I was actually elected to the board of directors for the American Society of Dermatopathology. And I really think that at only 5 years in practice, one of the big components of what allowed me to be voted by my colleagues into such a wonderful position is because I've been active on social media and they've seen how useful that is to the community of dermatopathologists around the world. And I was also appointed as a deputy editor-in-chief on the Journal Archives of Pathology and Laboratory Medicine. And it's the same thing. Again, I'm not a deputy editor-in-chief because I'm a world-famous researcher. I think I've written some nice papers, certainly not enough to land me right next to my department chair. And one of the people who trained me, they invited me to do this, I really believe, because I had the knowledge about how to use social media and I had ideas about how to put the journal's content and link it to social media to increase readership and to make sure that the impact of the journal is carried beyond just the traditional metrics that we look at, like citations and impact factor. And so I think that this is because I use social media, it's opened a lot of doors for me that have given me traditional leadership positions and roles that go on my CV and count towards promotion. Also, I've published a lot of papers, 13 papers now in just the past couple of years about social media. And that doesn't even count the many scientific medical papers that have come about because I met someone on social media and we had an idea and collaborated together. I get invited to give lectures nationally and even internationally about using social media professionally for medicine. And I've given 45 lectures just on the topic of social media. I've given over 100 lectures total, but 45 of those are about social media. It seems to be all that anyone wants me to speak about anymore when I get invited to meetings. And then also I've been a co-director presenting courses about social media at 2 major national pathology meetings that have been renewed at least for the second time at the CAP and the US CAP. So again, those are things that count for traditional promotion. And it's also this, what I've been doing with social media has gotten out to the news media. And so I've been on the local news a couple of times about this. I've been on a couple of radio programs about it. I got onto BuzzFeed, which was probably going to be the pinnacle of my whole career, actually. So I think it's all downhill from here, but I thought that was really fun to be on BuzzFeed. And then just last week, actually, I was featured in an NPR article about using social media to help patients in the developing world. And I think that all of these things, I don't know if they count traditionally or not, but it sure probably does not hurt that the leaders at my organization see that I'm putting out a good public image for the organization when I'm presented in a positive light on the news. So I think that this is a nice aspect of doing something novel, is that other people look at it and say, what are you doing with social media? Let's learn more about this. So finally, to sum it up, when I got ready in 2016 to apply for promotion to associate professor, I was putting together all my evaluations from my medical students here at my own university and how they rated me as a teacher and as a leader. And I thought maybe I should survey my online students via social media. So I conducted a survey and asked them to evaluate my teaching, my leadership, all of those things purely based on what I post online on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. And I included the results in my P&T packet as supplemental information in addition to the traditional things that are in a P&T packet. So what was really amazing is that I got over 1,100 people responded in 4.5 days, and they represented 85 countries around the world, which is really pretty awesome, I think, to show that this is what social media allows us to have this kind of impact. And this is not just me, anyone can do this by using social media to teach and to educate. And what I asked them, how would you describe yourself? And so you can see that's not only pathologists that actually are involved here, but it's also medical students, doctors from other specialties, other types of medical providers, and even cancer patients and survivors who all came. So a really broad swath of people who came to comment on what they thought my social media activity was doing. And I asked them, how would you rate my teaching? The majority said very good. There's always got to be a few haters, I suppose. But that most people said that my teaching was very good. And also most people said that what I was doing with social media was showing strong leadership. So again, I was asking questions and asking them to evaluate me as online learners in the language that the promotion and tenure committee wants to hear when deciding whether or not to give someone promotion and tenure. And maybe the most meaningful question to me was I asked that if for those who were doctors, have my posts actually helped you take better care of patients in real life? And a large proportion of the people said, yeah, they have. And if, it's great to get promoted and it's great to do all this for our careers, but the real thing that should matter the most is helping sick people. That's why I became a doctor. And so to know that what I'm doing online actually translates into better health, better healthcare and better patient care around the world. I mean, how can I not continue doing social media when I get results like that? So it's very moving for me to see that this kind of impact is actually translating to real world benefit for patients. And finally, I asked for free text comments and, for people to please leave a comment. And amazingly, 1,000 people out of the 1,100 left comments. And I compiled a document with the best comments. And even still, it was 30 pages long. And I used an online word counting tool to kind of summarize the most common words that were showed up, that, to see 293 times the word helpful or valuable was used, educational, inspiration, innovative, leader, pioneer, mentor. These are words that, easily looking at one chart, you can kind of summarize that there's a general positive trend from all the people who left comments. And I think that would be helpful for my P&T committee to see and recognize that in general, what I'm doing online is actually looked at positively by a large number of people around the world. And again, most importantly, the actual comments themselves, these are examples of real comments from the survey, were very moving and really it touched me very deeply to know that people felt this way and that what I was doing was actually really helping people, because in the end, making the world a better place, that's the reason that I became a doctor, and that's the reason that I use social media. So I hope that this has been helpful to you, and best of luck in your future attempts at getting a promotion and tenure.
Thank you, Jared. I think you're pretty modest about it, but what you've done is amazing.
Thank you.
I think most researchers looking at this would feel like it's probably quite far from what they would think that they would be able to achieve. So it's really great to see how you've kind of evolved what you've done to reach this level. I guess if anyone has any questions, please do pop them in the Q&A box. We'd be happy to get to them. A question from me, actually, Jared, for you. You've obviously had you know, a while to kind of build up your audiences, and you're achieving really great reach now with the things that you post. If someone was kind of just thinking about starting out using social media, how would you, or what advice would you give them to kind of start building up an audience and getting those followers and driving that engagement?
No, that's a great question. And I think, yeah, for me, it kind of organically happened over time. And I definitely didn't start out anticipating that any of this stuff would happen. It just kind of happened. And I think that what I usually tell, like, for my own students and residents who are in medicine, so physicians, is that the best place to start professionally is Twitter. Twitter is great because it's built to be open, and it easily links you up with other people who you would never have ever met in real life, who have similar interests. Like, you know, I found Jenny Huang, who's a radiologist who has a lot of similar views as me, but she's a neuroradiologist. I would have never gone to the same meetings. I would have never met her except through Twitter. And I found that we have a lot of similar views on things. I actually met some other radiologists from my own university, but I met them on Twitter rather than in real life, which was really amazing. And so I think that Twitter is great because it's pretty easy. It can be, you know, in little snippets of 5 minutes, you can get involved. You can do it while you're standing in line at the grocery store or something. And it's a great way to really bridge out and meet a lot of people that you wouldn't have met otherwise. And then from there, you can see how that goes and decide, you know, like Daniel said, you got to decide what exactly do you want to accomplish? Do you really want to share everything across every possible channel? That can get exhausting. I mean, for me, this is such a big component of my career now that I do try to do that. But even I have to hit a wall at some point. I can't do all of it. So, but I think starting with Twitter is a great place to start. And my online guide has some tips about how to get Twitter set up and running easily.
Yeah, and thanks for those resources that you shared at the beginning. I'm sure anything that saves people time will always be popular. We've had a question from Innocent, who asks, and Daniel, I don't know if you might have something to add to this. Have either of you worked or collaborated with your library or with a librarian within your organisation to either help amplify the message that you're trying to put out, or to share your research further, or even to kind of gather some of the insights to help you measure?
So actually, currently, our librarians at Mayo Clinic track two things. Track the Altmetric score and the other alternative metric score for the faculty. And also they start tracking what is called alternative media or digital media for the faculty who's interested. They don't do it on everybody, but somebody who's interested on that, they will do it, they will track it for you. And you know, just following what Jared just said, I think the entrance gate, the entrance point for digital media scholarship and social media scholarship is Twitter, without no doubt. The key is trying to figure out where your peer group is, and that's done basically following hashtags. And probably the pathology hashtags are different from the emergency medicine hashtags, or different from the nuclear physics hashtags and so forth. So the only thing is just to be sure to follow the appropriate hashtag, the appropriate community at the end of the day.
Okay, Jared, anything to add there?
Yeah, that's a great point. Hashtags are actually really a great way to find people that, again, you would never have found otherwise. For pathology, we actually have a whole list of, because we have a lot of subspecialties in pathology. So we have a whole list of hashtags based on, you know, dermatopathology, gynecologic pathology, lung pathology, brain pathology. Each of them have their own hashtags because they're all very different. And then, yeah, we interact with our librarians here. Actually, I recently just got invited to join a Teaching with Technology committee, which is the chair of it is actually a librarian. And so I think our librarians are really interested in this idea and really interested in using a lot of their really specific knowledge about how to do specialized searches and how to correlate that and link that up with social media, which I think is really cool. And I think that's a really amazing place for librarians to be as this becomes such a huge thing in medicine and in science today.
I'm really interested to hear possibly a little bit more about the kind of feedback that you've had from people within your institution around, you know, you've obviously gone out and done loads, both of you. What kind of comments have you had from management or from people who, you know, who are actively reviewing kind of your performance? Are they taking it seriously? Are they interested to hear about it? How do they compare it? Or, you know, how does it tell part of the story alongside the kind of, you know, day-to-day academic work that you do?
I want to hear Daniel's answer, actually, because the Mayo Clinic experience is such an important experience, and I'm always curious to see how they do things.
So our academic promotions and tenure committee start acknowledging and recognizing social media scholarship and social media activities in 2016. And I have to say that Robert Spinner, the chair of the committee, is extremely supportive of innovation and extremely supportive of all these new ideas. And the committee is welcome to review and welcome to reward social media and digital scholarship. The main barrier that I think we have at this point is most of the faculty feels a little bit scared about joining the conversation. Scared for two reasons. One, it is a significant amount of time invested, at least upfront. And I think all the magnificent things that Jared is doing require some time. And they're a little bit afraid that if they spend too much time doing digital scholarship, they may take that time from traditional scholarship. And the other thing is there's still a lot of, you know, concerns about how valuable your social media work actually is. I think that barrier is almost over right now. I think the major barrier for faculty is the time investment upfront that requires to do something meaningful in digital platforms.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Those are concerns I hear a lot about the time it takes, and certainly I do spend an awful lot of time on it. But again, it's such a big part of my career. But I do tell people that who are starting out, you don't have to do as much stuff as I'm trying to do, because to me this is important and part of my career. But I think that other people can invest a smaller amount of time and still have really great returns. To me, though, using social media has been, I mean, probably the best return on time invested of anything I have done in my entire career. More important than any paper I've ever written, any research I've ever done. And I've written quite a few papers about medical stuff, not just about social media. I mean, I've written almost like, I'm getting close to 80 papers, I think, which is, you know, not nearly as many as some people, but for 5 years in practice, not too bad. And I've worked actually really hard to do that too, because when I went up for promotion, I wanted them to know, like, I think that I have enough stuff to get promoted based on my traditional activities, but I want to put the social media stuff on the end there just to really hit home how important it is. And with one goal of that, not just being me getting promoted, but I really wanted to help impress upon the P&T committee that this is important, and we should just, even if we encourage our faculty to do this in addition to their other activities, if we let them know that we'll, like Daniel said, that we'd be willing to look at digital scholarship and online social media use professionally, if we're willing to look at it, then more people will do it. And I think that will help the world in many different ways. The more doctors and the more scientists on Twitter and Facebook, the better, I think. So I really feel like, I hope that over time I can sway people by showing you can still be productive in traditional sense and use social media, and the two mesh very nicely together. And overall, I've been really lucky at University of Arkansas for Medical Sciences. They've been very supportive, actually. The people that do communications that run the university's social media have actually worked with me and been supportive and approving, and they retweet my posts and my tweets and things. And I think that's been really great to see that they're so receptive to this. My chair is on Twitter, actually my department chair. So I think it's been a really great place that I landed for my first job that has been so willing to let me evolve in this way. And it's really made my career possible. So I'm very thankful to my university for that support.
Yeah, I think it's great to see institutions that are open to embracing kind of moving beyond the four walls of the institution, I suppose, as it were. But like you say, there is obviously an awful lot of work involved in this, and the reality is it does take time. Could you kind of speak a little bit about how you go about managing that and kind of, I don't know, splitting up your week, or, you know, making sure you stay on top of all of these different channels and the conversations that you're having with the various different groups on them?
Yeah, Daniel, do you want to do that one, or do you want me to?
Let me say, you're the expert, but let me say my a small contribution to that. I think, like anything, academics require some organization and require some discipline. I, for example, run the Mayo Clinic Emergency Medicine blog, which is similar to what Gerald does in terms of dissemination of educational knowledge and some research. And I typically spend half morning with housekeeping and preparing the blog, the post, and preparing the images. And I set up the post to be automatically posted in some days of the week and that kind of thing. And also spend probably like 15 minutes to 20 minutes per day just going through the Facebook accounts, the Twitter accounts, and Reddit, which is important for our flow actually, taking care of housekeeping. So my point is, it requires some discipline and it requires some planning. I think that's an important concept.
Yeah, those are great points, and I think the way that, and I'm still learning over time how to best organize it, because I think that, yeah, with good organization and also with some delegation to a team of people, I could accomplish so much more than I'm actually doing, but it takes time to delegate and to build teams. But I've done that with the couple committees the subcommittees of social media for the USCAP and the American Society of Dermpath. And there we have a team of people that we can work together to kind of divvy up the tasks. And then for my own personal accounts, one of the best things, and I have no financial conflict of interest, but I really like this tool called Buffer app. And there's a variety of other tools, Hootsuite and TweetDeck and all of these that let you load up tweets and Facebook posts ahead of time. You can load up, say, 10 in one sitting, and then it will tweet them out or post them out 1 per day or 2 per day or only on weekdays, whatever you want. So that's what I do. And Pathology is very unique because we have all these pictures that we can share. So it's very well suited to social media. So when I'm signing out, when I'm looking at biopsies and cases each day, I have my phone with me. I actually take most of my microscopic pictures with my iPhone, and I actually have a folder setting. I have some folders in my iPhone, and I will save the pictures and just link them into the folder in where it's a folder called pictures to be edited. Later when I have, I'm waiting for a flight or I'm on an airplane flight and I don't have Wi-Fi, I'll edit those pictures on my phone and get them ready. And then when I have some spare time, I'll build those posts into the Buffer app and then set it to automatically tweet out. That way I don't have a bolus of like 10 tweets coming out at once and then nothing for a week because I'm really busy with cases or something. And then what's nice is that those apps, at least Buffer, allow you can go back through and look at your old tweets, and then you can retweet them and share them again 6 months down the road. And if it's a really cool, interesting case or a really great article that you're sharing today, it's still going to be of interest to people if you share it again in a month or two. And no one's going to get tired of seeing good content, even if they see it a couple of times. So I feel like the tools like that have really helped. Getting some of my residents and students involved in delegating tasks to them have helped. I do, just kind of in my spare time, look through my accounts and see if there's any comments or replies that I need to respond to. But also, I think the more and more followers you get, the less you're able to keep up with every single question that every person asks you. And I think that people understand that, and you have to realize it's okay to not reply to everything. I think that's real hard for people because they feel required to reply to everything just like you would on email. But I think that that you have to learn to just let that go and that it's okay. And I think that's kind of how I've done it, but I'm still learning new things about how to manage this time-wise on a daily basis.
You seem to be doing a pretty good job. But I think that point about content and repurposing it and reusing it even is a really good one, because I know for a lot of people the concern is, what on earth would I post and where am I going to get enough stuff to kind of keep making new posts? So it's really interesting to hear that perspective on it. We had one question that specifically related to altmetric, and it was about whether there's a way to compare your altmetric score with other scores within a certain field. Hopefully you can see my screen and see the altmetric details page here. So what we enable you to do is see your attention score in context. So you can find this on any details page that you come across. And here you can see how the attention received by your paper or your research output ranks in comparison with other items published around the same time or in the same journal. So although it's not split by subject, you can start to get an idea, so that you're not just looking at the number thinking, what on earth does this mean? 6,727, that sounds big, but what does it actually mean? And I think to kind of tie altmetrics back to what Jared and Daniel have been talking about, and if there was a theme for this webinar, really it's about using these tools and this data in context. There's no point going out there and doing all this if it doesn't tie in with the aims of what you're trying to achieve. And there's no point in looking at the numbers if you don't have a richer understanding of you know, the extent to which you're achieving that and why people are engaging. So that's always really important to bear in mind, I would say. We're nearly out of time, so if there are no more questions, I think we will leave it there for today. But a huge thank you to you, Jared and Daniel, both fascinating presentations there.
Thanks, it was great to be here.
Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you. And we've had some great comments on Twitter while you've been speaking, which is always lovely, so I hope you get a chance to read them. So as I said at the beginning, we will send a link to the recording round, hopefully in the next day or two. And we look forward to hearing any feedback that anyone else has. Please do feel free to get in touch. Thank you, everyone, and we'll leave it there for today.